I called this news conference to share information about the theft that happened from City Hall last week. When I found out about the theft yesterday afternoon, I was furious for two reasons. One, because approximately $150,000 had been stolen from City Hall. And the other reason is because I did not find out about it. I was not notified of it until almost a week after it occurred. Chief Pursuit is going to share what information he can about the investigation. My goal for this press conference is, after all three of us speak, stay here long enough so that everyone who has a question can ask a question. My goal is for this press conference to be it for now until further information becomes available. If there's a break in the case or other information that we can share. But like I said, I want to stay here until everybody who has a question has an opportunity to answer it. One of the reasons why I was so furious about not being made aware of this until yesterday afternoon is because the theft was not just a theft of a camera or some object from City Hall. The theft was literally a theft of taxpayer dollars. And in my view, it was a betrayal of the public's trust in their government to be a responsible steward of their money. And in a broader context, the importance of being a responsible steward of public money has guided this entire administration since we took office last December. And that's why when I was made aware of this, when Chief Pursuit called me yesterday afternoon, I immediately said, we have to notify the public. The public has a right to know not only that public dollars were stolen from City Hall, but they have a right to know what their government is doing to address the situation. Earlier this morning, I held a cabinet meeting, an emergency cabinet meeting with all department directors. I reaffirmed my expectations that anytime something like this happens, I need to know about it, whether it's at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, like when Chief Pursuit called me, or whether it's at 4 in the morning. Particularly bad news. Bad news does not get better with time. And I'm confident that should anything remotely similar to this happen again, whether, God forbid, a theft, but I'm confident we're taking the steps necessary so that we will not experience another theft. But anytime there's bad news happening, I'm confident that I will be notified promptly, and more importantly, that the public will be notified right away. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Elliott, the Finance Director. Mr. Elliott will share what has happened, what actions the Finance Department has been taking since last Monday, and what progress the city has been making in recapturing some of the money that was stolen.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Tim Elliott, the Finance Director. A little history. I've been with the Finance Department for 26 years, Finance Director for a little over 8 years. I can tell you this is the first occurrence of this type in those 26 years. I take this very personally, myself, and in the chronology of events is basically what happens on a daily basis is cash receipts for the day are collected, deposits are made up and put into a bank bag for delivery the next morning to the bank. The bank bag is placed in, we have a secure location which we call the vault. It's a large room. It also includes all our files that we have to keep under lock and key. And in that vault is a smaller safe. What normal procedure should be in this case is that the bank bag, and what will continue, is the bank bag is put into the smaller safe. What didn't happen in this case is there was not room for some reason in the smaller safe for the bag to go in, and the bag, as happens in periodically, was just put on top of the smaller safe. What happens on a daily basis is that the vault is locked. Next morning it is open. We have a courier that comes by early in the morning to pick up the bank bag, to deliver to the bank to make the deposit. In this instance, on Monday afternoon, shortly after a meeting with the mayor, I went back to the office. I was the last supervisory person in the office. I actually locked and closed the vault. What I did not notice at the time was whether the bag was there or not. But I closed the vault and locked it. The next morning, I was also the first employee to arrive and unlock the vault for the courier, and that's when we noticed the bag was not there. The first thing we did was we held off until the cashier arrived who made up the bank deposit to ascertain that she had put the bag in the vault and did not mistakenly leave it somewhere, and we searched the office just to make sure. As soon as we determined that yes, it was not where she had put it, that's when we called the police department and filed the theft report. That's where I made a mistake in that I did not call the mayor. That was my responsibility as a department head to contact the mayor, and no excuses for that. It just didn't happen. But other procedures were followed as it related to the theft. Immediately following the theft, we instituted a secondary procedure to make sure that when the bank bag is taken to the vault and put into the safe is a supervisory person. I have 4 top-level staff people, including myself, that have access to the combination of the vault as well as access to the small safe in the vault. So one of us need to be present when the bank bag is put into the safe and make sure that the safe is secure in the bank bag. So that's a procedure that we instituted right away the first day. Additionally, we have the deposit, the actual deposit that was lost was only had about $3,900 in cash, and the rest was checks. So we immediately started calling the check writers, and through this morning we've collected approximately $110,000 worth of the $149,000 worth of checks that were in the bag. So we have recovered those funds, and we're continuing to call the smaller check. We of course call the big check writers first, and we're working on the entire list to recover the funds. I think that's about it.
Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to ask Chief Steve to share what he can about the criminal investigation.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mike Christie. The police department began this investigation on the morning of June 8th. Through a series of interviews, we determined that sometime, as Mr. Elliott mentioned, sometime in the evening hours and the afternoon hours on the 7th Monday to the morning of the 8th, somebody accessed the vault and took the bank bag. As was explained, at this point in time, as with all criminal investigations, the detectives are mulling through the evidence. They're reviewing statements. There are yet a few to be had, and they're going to make a determination as soon as possible as to whether we will be able to bring charges. We do not have a suspect to name at this time. There's not a whole lot more I can share with you until the investigation further progresses. There was absolutely no delay in the way the investigators began and ensued the investigation, and so they are continuing to do this diligently. And as I mentioned, yet there are interviews to be conducted, and at the earliest point in time, discussing this with the administration and Mayor Cohen, we'll provide more information to the media and to the public as it does become available.
Thank you. And before I open up the questions, I just want to emphasize a couple more points. The fact that I was not notified of this is unacceptable. I've already taken steps, and I'm continuing to take steps to make sure that that does not happen again, and I'm handling that internally. From the public standpoint, the finance department followed the proper procedures in terms of the criminal investigation and notified the police department right away, and the police have been on the job, on the case, immediately after the theft was discovered. Moving forward, my 2 goals are, number 1, to make sure that we get to the bottom of the criminal investigation, to support the police department in their work, to not compromise the investigation so that we can reach a conclusion quickly on the criminal side. My second goal is in terms of the internal security controls and protocols within the finance department primarily, but overall with all City Hall, to make sure that we have the protocols and controls in place to make sure that something like this does not happen again. I'm confident that both Mr. Elliott and Chief Verstoop are following the right course of action to accomplish both of those goals.